morning and welcome to the evening news for today, Tuesday, October 4, 2022. I am Jemima Holmes. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's take a look at some of the lead stories tonight. Guyana seeking investors to set up 30,000 barrel oil refinery. Government in process of mapping out available oil blocks before auction, says Minister BHARRAT. Mother confesses to forcing 4-year-old daughter to drink poison. Housing allocation increased by 300% since PPPC took office, says Minister Rodrigues. GTI student brutally beaten to death, and Police Sergeant DION BASCOM slapped with another 50 million defamation lawsuit. Now for the news in detail. Having already received from private entities significant interest in the establishment of an oil refinery in the country, the Guyana government plans to soon invite expressions of interest in the setting up of such a facility on local shores. In this report, the country's Chief Investment Officer, Dr. Peter Ramserup, has said the development of the local oil refinery would aid tremendously in the nation's developmental push. Here are the details from Davina Samaru.
President Dr. Irfaan Ali on Tuesday announced that the government will be pursuing the establishment of an oil refinery.
We're looking at the launch of an expression of interest for a 30,000 barrel refinery. This expression of interest will be launched soon.
While the head of state did not elaborate further on this announcement, the Evening News spoke with the head of the Guyana Office of Investment, GoInvest, Dr. Peter Ramserup, who noted that a refinery will significantly benefit the country.
If you just study what has happened in the world today with Ukraine, the war in Russia, how fuel prices have gone up, I think it is very important for Guyana to look at how it can sustain itself long term, and I think the refinery is just one more step of us looking at our needs in the near future, similar to the gas coming to shore, reducing energy power by 50%. That will increase significant investments in manufacturing. So if you look at the fuel aspects, you combine that with all the integrated energy solutions of hydro and wind, then I think Guyana is poised, that our future has arrived and we're ready to ensure that we sustain our nation long term. We have been having lots of proposals come in on setting up of an oil refinery, and I think the government has decided, to look at it from a holistic perspective. Let's see how those proposals come in and ensure that we are continuing to look at the environment. New technologies in the refineries today have minimal emissions, so all of that will be looked at during that EOI process that the President announced.
While no decision has been taken, he said there are considerations for the refinery to be set up in Burbys. More information on the project, the GoInvest head indicated, will become available once proposals are submitted.
The EOI that the President announced will most likely request companies to send in their requirements, what do they need, what they believe that the numbers should be, and then government will make that decision on what we willing to license for a refinery. And again, this is a new announcement by the President. We'll have to wait until the EOI process is completed.
It was reported in August of this year that a US $200 million oil refinery and integrated petrochemical manufacturing complex, which will employ 750 persons during its construction and 300 permanent workers, is being planned by a United States investor, Chemtech Limited, for the East Bank of Demerara. According to Chemtech in its project summary, they have already received no objection letters from the Guyana Office for Investment, GoInvest, and the Region 4 Regional Democratic Council for the project, which has a proposed site on 492 acres of land at Plantation, York. Vice President Dr. Bar Jagdeo had previously explained that the government favors the establishment of a small refinery over a much larger operation to process the crude for local consumption in order to ensure the country's energy security in the future. Reporting for the Evening News, Davina Samaru.
Ahead of the soon-to-be-launched auction of Guyana's remaining oil blocks, the government is in the process of mapping out the blocks that will be up for bidding so that there can be a greater understanding of what is available. Gerald Bryan reports.
This is according to Minister of Natural Resources Vikram Bharat when questioned on Monday by this newscast. Bharat pointed out that ExxonMobil is the operator in the Kanji block and therefore relinquished some acreage there based on their agreement. The minister explained that other parts of offshore Guyana are also being mapped.
We are also now in the process of drafting the map, mapping out the blocks that will be available. We know Block C for sure is available. There is relinquished acreage in the Kanji block, and there is a few other blocks, for example, the Demerara and the Burbys blocks that are available. So more data will be released very shortly. Based on the statement, we'll start that process very soon.
According to Minister Bharat, significant progress has been made towards launching the auction. He noted that soon, Cabinet will finalize the new fiscal terms that will be implemented for these new blocks or acreages that will be up for bidding.
We have moved significantly towards starting the process. Cabinet will soon finalize the new fiscal terms that will be implemented for those new blocks or acreage that will be up for bidding. It will be an open process that will last several months. We are to decide definitively on a time frame whether we give 3 months or 4 months or even 6 months. Those are some of the practices around the world where countries give 4 months or 6 months to companies to prepare their bid documents and to ensure that they submit a proper proposal to the government of Guyana, having reviewed all the terms and conditions.
The auction is expected to attract global interest, although experts have warned that it is important to balance the fiscal terms. Jarrell O'Brien, The Evening News.
Guyana has now demonstrated that it is ready to play on any stage as the Guyana Office for Investment, GoInvest, which serves as the government's primary contact for investors, has become ISO certified. Davina Samaru filed this report.
The Guyana Office for Investment, GoInvest, which links investors with government agencies throughout their investment process in the country, is now internationally certified in accordance with ISO standards. During a simple ceremony to mark this achievement on Tuesday, President Dr. Irfan Ali expressed that this demonstrates the agency's commitment to delivering world-class services.
It demonstrates that we are committed to delivering world-class service in a world-class environment with world-class standards, world-class guidelines, and subjecting ourselves to world-class audits. Because to maintain the certification, the ISO certification, it requires that the organization and everything we do within the organization operate at all times at a high level.
He also noted that this development ultimately speaks to the government's commitment to issues of transparency and accountability.
For the agency itself to be willing to subject itself to the audits to get the certification tells you about the dynamism. It tells you about openness. It speaks about transparency. It speaks about our desire to build systems that follow structure, and structures that follow standards, and standards that follow guidelines. All of these are important parameters in the whole conversation of transparency and accountability. That is why the IMF report spoke about the improvement in the overall architecture of the country in advancing and promoting transparency and accountability. This is what we want. Demonstrating to the world that we are ready to play on any stage. And we are ready not only to play on any stage, but we are ready to stand by the standards that the world requires.
Chief Executive Officer of GoInvest, Dr. Peter Ramsrup, said the move to become ISO certified was inspired by President Ali and his desire to see better standards across government agencies.
GoInvest decided to embark on the standards to meet that expectation, and in doing so, we follow the ISO guidelines over the last 2 years and ensure that our documentation, our quality management, our customer service, our intervention with investors, both local and foreign investors, are equal. And by doing that, we continue to meet the standards, and then we ask the audit agency and help with I should compliment the Guyana National Standards Bureau for their guidance and consultancy, and then the Global Compliance Service that came and do the audit. And we look forward for continuous improvement. This is not an achievement that stops. It requires us to continue to improve deficiencies that we may have, and to deliver better service to our nation and to the international community.
Reporting for the Evening News, Davina Samaru.
Let's now tell you that 2 days after it was reported that a 4-year-old had consumed the poisonous substance that she had found while playing in the yard, police have secured a confession from the mother, who has admitted to forcing the child to drink the poison. Police had stated that the child, Tanisha Shamshundar, of number 50 Village, Quarantine, is in a critical state at the New Amsterdam Hospital. However, the toddler's 23-year-old mother had initially told police that she had collected the weedicide from her mother-in-law to spray the yard, and she had secured it in her goat pen. She claimed that the child was playing in the yard and had subsequently told her that she had opened that bottle and had drunk the substance contained therein. Both the mother and father were reportedly arrested. During interrogation, the woman told detectives that her husband had returned home under the influence of alcohol, and an argument had broken out between them, and it had later turned physical. The husband, on the other hand, related that his wife had threatened to consume poison and feed it to their only child. Upon receiving this information, she was again grilled by the police and eventually confessed to forcing the 4-year-old to drink the substance. Both parents remain in custody while doctors are monitoring the child's condition. Coming up, housing allocation increased by 300% since PPPC took office, says Minister Rodrigues, and a GTI student brutally beaten to death. Do stay with us. More news ahead.
Cheryl, girl, you want me? Sorry, I'm interrupting y'all.
Marla, I'm here taking the census.
Girl, you done got a husband already, huh?
Miss, I am a census taker, going door to door so that everyone can be interviewed and counted in the National Census 2022.
What is the census though?
Well, the Population and Housing Census is a count of the population and all the buildings every 10 years.
Getting counted transforms an entire nation.
From Region 1 to Region 10.
You know what? I believe our village needs a health center.
I think it needs some roads too. You see the man boots out there, how it's full of mud, eh?
That's why I'm asking Mrs. Da Silva a few questions from our questionnaire. We record the answers, and then the data is used to help shape the future of the country.
Oh, so the two y'all not...
Oh gosh.
Contractors, let the quality of your road constructions speak for themselves by investing in a walk-behind vibratory roller from Sylvies. Apart from improving productivity, our roller provides better compaction for soil and asphalt. Designed with the ability to turn, this machine also offers great flexibility for precise work near walls and sidewalks. Order it now before it's gone at sylviesonline.com or at our 31 High and Hatfield Street store.
Wave your hands and follow. Don't matter where you belong to. Good vibes and cricket fever. So just wave your hands and follow. This is another reason for a big celebration. The loudest party cause we in the CPL season. Guyana is the place if you want feel the party. Big cricketing we've been from since we start play. Sharing this moment with my friends and my family. Welcome to Cricket Carnival.
It's John Lewis Styles buy one get one at half price sale. Buy any t-shirt, top, polo shirt, dress, pantsuit, or skirt suit and get the second one at 50% off. Same goes for shoes, handbags, and lingerie at half price. Hurry, because John Lewis Styles half price sale ends soon. It's John Lewis Styles buy one get one at half price sale. Buy any t-shirt, top, polo shirt, dress, pantsuit, or skirt suit and get the second one at 50% off. Same goes for shoes, handbags, and lingerie at half price. Hurry, because John Lewis Styles half price sale ends soon.
Welcome back. You're watching the Evening News. Another defamation lawsuit has been filed against Police Sergeant DION BASCOM over his accusations that police ranks have accepted bribes and are covering up the murder of Ricardo Fagundes, also called Paper Shorts. Bisham Mohammed has the details in this report.
In his accusation, BASCOM had identified several persons including Superintendent Mitchell Caesar, Superintendent Chabinot Singh, Mark Richmond, and businessman Asruddin Mohammed. However, the claimant this time is 44-year-old Mark Richmond, who is attached to Mohammed's enterprise as a security detail. He has since claimed $50 million in damages for defamation. In the lawsuit filed on his behalf by lawyers Narendra Rajendra and Sohan Punai, Richmond stated that on August 11, 12, 13, and 14, 2022, Sergeant BASCOM broadcast on Facebook several statements about him that were false, untrue, disingenuous, dangerous, malicious, irrational, unfair, unsubstantiated, and baseless. This, he argued, has resulted in his reputation being tarnished and lower and has caused him great embarrassment, psychological trauma, emotional distress, and public humiliation. The security officer wants an injunction to restrain the policeman from further uttering defamatory statements and an injunction compelling him to permanently remove the Facebook post. Despite sending Sergeant BASCOM a written letter of demand on August 12, calling on him to retract the statements, apologize, and pay compensation, he said that the following day the cop again broadcast a live video on his Facebook page in which he made several offending utterances and statements about him. Richmond said that Sergeant BASCOM, through his attorney at law, Nigel Hughes, sent a written response on August 15 rejecting his demands and contended that statements he made about him were justified and true. He related that he was again defamed on August 19 at a press conference hosted by Sergeant BASCOM and his lawyer, while pointing out that the utterances were understood to mean and suggest that he is associated with criminal activities. These include that he was at the scene of the shooting of Fagundes, that he shot him, was in contact with persons on the night of the shooting, that he threatened Sergeant BASCOM, that he and others will kill or cause grievous bodily harm, conspire to kill or cause grievous bodily harm to an unnamed journalist, and that he is guilty of murder and other serious criminal offenses. He further contends that BASCOM's statement were without merit, vile, deliberate, malicious, unfair, irrational, and intentional falsehoods that were intended to tarnish, sully, and stain his reputation without justification. Businessman Asruddin Mohammed, who from the onset had distanced himself from the allegations, has since filed a $200 million defamation lawsuit against Sergeant BASCOM. In addition, Sergeant BASCOM, through his attorney, had threatened to take legal actions against Sergeant BASCOM if he did not remove the post and offer him an apology and $50 million compensation. Bisham Mohammed, The Evening News.
We are now joined by Gerald Bryan, who reports that while more remains to be done, President of the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Timothy Tucker, has acknowledged the steps that government has been taking to improve Guyana's ease of doing business, such as the single window system. Here are the details.
On Tuesday, GCCI President Timothy Tucker was the first speaker in the lineup for the Guyana Basin Summit that is being held at the Pegasus Hotel. He spoke about the business climate in Guyana and some of the challenges businesses face, such as a lack of interagency cooperation. At the same time, however, Tucker acknowledged the steps that the government has been taking to ease the way business is being done in Guyana.
Even though that we look at the lack of the interagency cooperation in the government sector as an issue, the government is rapidly dealing with that issue with various single windows that they're creating for permitting, for Revenue Authority and other agencies that the government is working clearly, daily, and hard to get sorted out so that business in Guyana can move smoothly. We realize that Guyana is one of the fastest growing economies in the world and that private sector growth is important. So with that in mind, ICT is very important, and of course you see many new technology companies, and that by itself is an opportunity for you as an investor to invest in Guyana in ICT.
He noted that projects such as the Gas to Shore show government's commitment to solving the problems plaguing business and production in Guyana.
Cost and quality and reliability of electricity is a major issue in Guyana. Cost of electricity is the third highest in the Western Hemisphere. But like everything else in this country, the Guyana private sector is working closely with its government to resolve the issues as we find them. You clearly see the government has projected that by the end of 2024, cost of electricity in Guyana should be reduced by 50% with our gas to power project. With that, it shows commitment by both private sector and government to solve the issues of doing business within Guyana.
Tucker went on to champion the opportunities for investment in Guyana, noting the growth taking place in ICT, agriculture, and other areas. The Guyana-based summit will last for 3 days and is expected to attract thousands of visitors and delegates from across the world. Gerald Bryan, The Evening News.
During a panel discussion at the Housing Forum 2022 hosted by the Inter-American Development Bank (IDB) Group in Washington, D.C., USA, Minister within the Housing Ministry Susan Rodrigues related that Guyana's housing allocation has increased by 300% since the PPPC government took office in 2020. Here are the details in this Bisham Mohammed report.
During the forum, Minister Rodrigues reiterated that Guyana is one of the fastest growing economies in the world with a projected growth rate of 47% in 2022, and as such this wealth is trickling down to infrastructure and better services for its citizens.
In 2021, Guyana became one of the fastest growing economies in the world with a recorded growth rate in 2021 of 20%. And this is according to the IMF, and a projected growth rate of 47% in 2022. So this is related to our new oil and gas sector. So Guyana is now an oil and gas producing economy. And we see the transfer of that wealth to our infrastructure system and to our housing investment, where we have seen the housing allocation increased by 300%.
She further added that there was a backlog of over 70,000 applications pending dating back years. Out of the total applications in the system, 75% are from low-income households.
Out of the applications in our system, of the total applications in our system, 75% of that is from low-income households, 75%. So our housing program is largely based on supplying affordable housing to our low-income population. And who is our low-income people? Our low-income population is our women, it's people with disability, it's young people, it is our indigenous community.
With respect to the housing sector, she asserted that Guyana has a heavily subsidized program that is primarily designed to cater for the vulnerable groups.
We subsidize the serviced house lots that we distribute. So 82% is subsidized by the government, and only 18% is paid by persons of low affordability. And this is service lots, meaning the government pays for the infrastructure and the installment of the utilities, water, electricity, and so on.
The government, through the Central Housing and Planning Authority, distributed almost 2,000 lots during the first 6 months of the year and is projected to distribute a further 8,000 house lots by the end of this year. This is according to the Ministry of Finance 2022 mid-year report, which states that in the first half of the year, 1,843 house lots were distributed. This means that since the People's Progressive Party Civic took office in 2020, they have allocated 11,680 house lots. It was explained that out of the $11 billion allocated to continue infrastructure works in the Central Housing and Planning Authority housing areas, the sum of $7.4 billion was spent during the review period. To this end, infrastructural works are ongoing in housing areas in regions 2, 3, 5, 6, and 10. Bisham Mohammed, The Evening News.
Plans are well on the way for the hosting of Burbys Expo, which is slated to be held from October 14 to 17 at the Albion Community Center ground. In this Andrew Carmichael report, you will hear that the construction of booths has already commenced and the police are making sure that security arrangements are in place for the event.
The organizers and the police visited the venue on Tuesday to address security concerns. According to Coordinator Tej Paula Jodia, the aim of visiting the venue was to have a first-hand look at what is needed to be done in terms of security.
The security is very important for any event, and the expo this year we expect it to be a lot bigger than the past, and therefore we're looking to beef up security and to make sure that nothing goes wrong at this event.
Okay. Any concerns as they stand now?
As of now, we are very comfortable. We've actually hired some additional security to the police force. We have Sentinel and we have some private security who will provide that backup that is needed. So as of now, we are very comfortable that everything is in place for a smooth execution of the Burbys Expo.
Meanwhile, Regional Commander Senior Superintendent Shiv Prasad Bacchus told the Evening News that in order to ensure the event is a peaceful one, the police will be employing simple strategies, that is, being active on the ground in uniform and having roving patrols by utilizing criminal investigation officers who will be in civilian clothing.
The event itself on those days would attract a magnitude of persons visiting the Albion complex, and we expect the traffic arrangements that we will put in place will be one we wouldn't have any congestion on the roadways, both to and fro. During the activities itself, we understand also that they would have some party nights, and also we have a system in place to police those events.
During the walkabout on Tuesday, a plan was drafted which will see proper security in areas where the ticket booths will be and entrances which might have long queues. The commander said no weapons will be allowed in the venue.
So we are asking patrons who are coming to the event itself of those days, come, be peaceful, don't walk with no offensive weapons and so forth. And let's have a peaceful event in Burbys as of Burbys Expo 2022.
Based on your interaction with the chamber this afternoon, are there any concerns that the police would have at this point in time?
The only concerns we are looking at is the traffic arrangements, all right, to put in place, and the parking.
This year, the expo is being held under the theme Advancing Food Security through Agriculture, Sustainability and Innovation. Meanwhile, already construction of the main tent has commenced. The tent has a capacity to hold 72 booths.
As a matter of fact, we had to create a different design this year to accommodate the additional booths.
The last Burbys Expo and Trade Fair was held in 2019. For the Evening News, Andrew Carmichael.
Days after he was attacked and brutally beaten by a group of men in the vicinity of Stabrook Square, 19-year-old Raul Samuel Granum succumbed to his injuries while receiving medical attention at a private medical facility. Granum of Port Jordan, West Bank, Demerara, was an electrical installation level 2 student at the Government Technical Institute. Based on reports gathered, the incident occurred on Friday while Granum was in the company of a friend at the Route 45 minibus park. It is believed that the young man was a victim of mistaken identity. An aunt stated that her nephew was never part of the fight and he was not someone who would get into trouble. As such, the family is seeking justice. The police have not released any information in connection with the incident. And now for a look at the bridge reports.
The Demerara Harbour Bridge is expected to be closed on Wednesday, October 5th, 2022 at 23 hours 30 for a period of 1.5 hours. Meanwhile, the Burbys River Bridge is expected to be closed on Wednesday, October 5th, 2022 at 13 hours 5 for a period of 1.5 hours.
Decisions have consequences. Puran on Hetmeyer's absence, and South American Games. Ramdani siblings shine on first game day. Details of these stories in the Sportcast, sponsored by Macorp, coming up on the other side of the break.
Poultry farmers, save money by cutting down the time it takes to pluck your chickens with the plucking machine from Sylvie's. Now available at affordable prices in 3 sizes: 500, 550 and 600 mm, 110 220 volts, 60 cycles, 1450 RPM. Replacement motors and the plucking fingers are also readily available right now at Sylvie's Variety Store, High and Hatfield Streets, Georgetown.
Girl, you won't believe. Sorry, I'm interrupting y'all.
Marla, I'm here taking the census.
Girl, you done got a husband already, huh?
Miss, I am a census taker, going door to door so that everyone can be interviewed and counted in the National Census 2022.
What is the census though?
Well, the Population and Housing Census is a count of the population and all the buildings every 10 years.
Getting counted transforms an entire nation.
From Region 1 to Region 10.
You know what? I believe our village needs a health center.
I think it needs some roads too. You see the man boots out there, how it's full of mud, eh?
That's why I'm asking Mrs. De Silva a few questions from our questionnaire. We record the answers and then the data is used to help shape the future of the country.
Oh, so the two y'all not...
Oh, God.